Hi, this is Dale Corpus. I'm back this month bringing you episode number 7 of the Sold by Dale Show. So today we're covering title insurance and escrow. So whether or not you're already familiar with the topics, my guest today will cover and also enlighten you with things you may not even know about the subject. So standing on my right is escrow officer extraordinaire Nancy Salas from the Walnut Creek North American Title Office. Wave hi.
Hi.
She's very experienced in title and escrow and one of the very best escrow officers I have the great pleasure to work with. She's an integral part of making sure my transaction goes smoothly. You're in for a great show today, so keep your eyes glued to the screen. So Nancy, thanks for joining me on my show today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, and since you're an escrow officer, where do you fit in the overall real estate transaction?
Well, what we do in escrow is we take information from the everybody involved in the transaction, the buyer, the seller, the real estate agent, the lender. We take all their information from the contract, maybe from the terms of the loan, to whatever's been negotiated, and we put it all together into our written instructions. We are an independent, neutral third party, so that we're not really representing any one person in the transaction. We're representing everybody. We're completely neutral. So we take the instructions and we put them all together. Once everybody's agreed upon them, that's when they execute them. And we're ready to close. Of course, I handle all the money too, so I'm the accountant.
So you are the accountant on the deal, so people can feel safe when they give like their escrow deposit to your company, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're an escrow officer, and I know that you also have title officers in your company as well. What's the difference between an escrow officer and a title officer?
You know what? Title officers are such a huge part of this transaction, any type of real estate transaction. And there's not enough recognition for them because they're behind the scenes. But their job is when we get an order, we send it to the title officer. The title officer then takes that information, the property, the seller, and they run with it. They're looking for anything recorded against the property, any encroachments, any easements, any liens, anything that might come up against the seller. They provide that to us in what's called a preliminary title report. They give it to us in escrow, and then it becomes our job to kind of dig into it and make sure.
So they dig into the information, but you fix things up as needed?
We fix things up as needed, absolutely. And also with their help too. If there's something that maybe I can't, I don't clearly understand, or I have to dig in deeper, I work so closely with the title officer, and I'll ask them, hey, can you help me with this? I need to know where to go. And they'll say, yes, absolutely. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to clear this up. So they're really a huge part of what we do. Okay, so
which brings me to title insurance. Like, what is title insurance? Is it important, and is it optional even?
Well, it is yes to all three of those. It is important. It is optional. But title insurance covers the buyer of the property against anything, any liens, any encumbrances, any encroachments, anything that might come up against the property that they're about to make a huge investment in. Our job, again, is to issue a free and clear policy to the buyer. So the title insurance premium over the years has become more known that it is an optional policy for the buyer. But it is not an optional policy for the lender. And the lender requires title insurance. If the buyer is getting a loan, then the lender wants their own separate policy. Now, any type of insurance is always looked at as, well, in case something happens. You have car insurance just in case you rear end somebody. It's the same thing with title insurance. You pay your title insurance premium once. You pay it at the beginning of the transaction in escrow. It covers you for the entire time that you own the home. And so maybe in 3 years something comes up that didn't get cleared in escrow or title when you closed, and you bring that to our attention. We have to investigate if it's an issue that we didn't address and we needed to cover. You now have a title insurance claim. And again, you're making a huge investment in a real estate transaction,
especially in the Bay Area.
I know. And so sometimes these claims could be thousands and thousands of dollars, or even more than thousands of dollars. So You really kind of want to be protected.
So is it fair to say that title insurance really protects the seller, buyer, lender, like all those parties?
Well, it does. It at least it protects the buyer who's purchasing the property because the policy is really for the buyer. But it also protects the lender because they're issued a separate policy.
Okay.
And so they're really looking for the same things. They're really looking to make sure that they have free and clear title.
Okay. What about cases of fraud? Does title insurance handle or cover cases of fraud?
You know, that's a really good question because it's our job really to always have our senses heightened. So we're always looking, digging in. We're making sure that whoever owns the property has the right to sell it. Maybe somebody owns a property in an LLC, they've signed the contract, but then once I've looked into it, I'll say, Dale, it's not just your seller that owns it, but it's somebody else too. And so now we have to address that other person. They want to make sure, do they know the property's being sold? Maybe title's in a trust and the trustee's deceased. And we need to make sure that now the successor trustee has the capacity to sell the property. So we're constantly looking for, well, I would want to say we're looking for fraud. We're looking to make sure that the transaction is legitimate.
You want to make sure that you're always on alert to make sure that things look, kosher and you're doing everything right.
And we're really so sure by the end of the transaction that we've done our job to make sure that everything in the transaction is legitimate. That when we close our transaction, we issue both the buyer and the seller and what we call all clear ID policy, and it's basically protects you against fraud and identity theft, and it's issued by our company, good for 1 year after close of escrow.
That's really good. So it's just an added benefit. Here's another question that just came in my head. Say that someone with a common name, John Smith, is selling their home, and say that the preliminary title report showed like a judgment against a John Smith because of the common name or similar, somebody had a similar name to that. How does a case like that get handled by title insurance?
Well, what we ask is if we can't clear something, then we ask the seller to complete what we call a statement of information form. And it asks a lot of questions, and there really is a reason. In fact, our cover letter says there really is a reason, because sometimes people think, oh gosh, I really have to give out all this information.
And it's private information.
Right. But we're asking you, where have you worked in the last 10 years? Maybe previous marriages, previous residences, whatever. So we're looking for anything that we can to clear you from that lien. If we absolutely cannot clear it based on all the information you've given us in your statement of information form, then we have the option of asking you to complete an affidavit that you sign under penalty of perjury. The seller signs under penalty of perjury that says, this is not me. This is just not me. And we will take that and we will close our transaction and still issue the buyer free and clear title.
So that's how it gets handled then too. And what happens then if by chance that seller really lied or whatnot?
Of course, we really hope that they didn't.
Right.
But if something comes up and it becomes a title insurance claim, of course, again, it's reviewed. And if it's something that we didn't do our portion on, then it becomes a title insurance claim and the buyer's paid on it. Now, the seller will have repercussions. We will contact the seller and try to work out a settlement of some sort. If that's not worked out, then of course there's always legal actions. Nobody ever wants to go through that. So we really try to clear anything that we can prior to close.
Well, cool. This is really good information. Thanks for being on my show this month.
No.
And if somebody wanted to just had questions about title and escrow to you, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. And I would love to hear from you. So I work at North American Title in Walnut Creek in the Rossmore district. My phone number is 925-930-8800, and my email address is nsalas@nat.com, and I'd love to hear from you.
Well, cool guys. Thanks for tuning in for this month's show, and I'll see you on the next one.
Bye.